Broadcasting.
Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, with us. 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoke. This is 365 Sports, and I saw Mack earlier today. He was getting out of his chauffeur-driven limousine and walking into the athletics department building, and then walked out to football practice. It was nice to see you earlier today.
Yeah, that 2001 Chevy Suburban is far from a limousine. So
that's a big dude, though, Mac. That's a long, big, monstrous type car you have.
Yeah, that's my hunting vehicle, which I never use to go hunting because I don't have time to go hunting. But it looks good. It looks like a hunting vehicle.
So in like logistics and walking across the campus or walking around the athletics complex, there's dirt, cranes, everything. The indoor facility being extended, what you're trying to do with the football ops building, there's the pavilion. How sometimes do you stop and just like beam with pride and also, man, I can't wait for this all to be over?
Yeah, no, it's a great sense of pride and an accomplishment. And you know, when you have $311 million worth of construction projects going on at the same time, that it just doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of great people, collaboration, vision, donors, like Paula and Alejandra Foster and Jeremy and Christy Fudge and all of the donors, and you know, the campus, our people here in facilities, and you know, JD and Patrick and Henry and Drew and just everybody. And so it is a sense of pride, and there's some inconvenience, as you know, that goes with it when we think about just the practice fields and, you know, having to work around and not being able to use the indoor at all, you know, right now. But I think, you know, if you had to poll everybody, we would you know, certainly tolerate and be okay with the inconvenience, knowing what the end product is going to be like. And so just grateful. You know, sometimes you almost take it for granted that we have all of these projects going on at the same time. And so just, you know, hopefully want to take some moments to be grateful because not everybody's doing this across the country. And I think, you know, specifically when we think about both the Foster Pavilion and the Fudge Football Development Center, those are two projects that are really going to position us for the future. And you know, as part of the pavilion as well, the Allison Basketball Development Center, you know, that's a component of the pavilion. So all of that, I think, really helps us as we think forward regarding those programs.
How much input does Dave Aranda have on the football ops building?
Zero. We don't give him any. No, he does. He actually has sat in meetings with the architects, and you know, has been part of those. Not all of them, but some of the sessions. I think, you know, just even pre-design, sitting down with him and the football staff to get their thoughts on just, you know, things that are important to them and some different nuances. So you know, we absolutely are very intentional about providing an avenue for our coaches to be able to speak into the facilities. Same thing happened with when we think about the pavilion, and certainly the development center part of the pavilion with Scott and Nikki. They've been able to sit and have input. And, you know, we may have shared this, but like in the development center with basketball, you know, and the areas of the locker room, the team lounge, and the film room, academic room, we basically, you know, said to the coaches, here's your square footage. And, you know, it was equal square footage. And, you divide it up how you want it, and the adjacencies and even the interior finishes. So we try to give some our coaches some autonomy in terms of what the spaces become.
It must be nice that you have coaches that like bounce ideas off each other too. I would think Nikki and Scott would be like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that in our side too," wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, I think that there is two-way communication between those programs, both Nikki and Scott, and I think even amongst the assistant coaches. And Dave is really good about I think asking for opinion from his staff. Certainly, him and I have had a lot of conversation. Jovan and him have had a ton of conversation. I think we look at these facilities, one that once in a lifetime, you get one chance to do it right. And so really being intentional, meticulous about doing it right. And then I think we also take it serious, that our donors are investing money into these facilities. And, we take that, as being really, really serious and having ownership in making sure that we're using their monies in a really strategic and an efficient way.
So, Mack, I know that from time to time, like John Morris will post a video update with one of the architects or construction guys and all of that. I don't recall, though, the last one that I saw. So could you give us an update just sort of on the timeline, the way that it is now as far as what you guys are expecting with all that construction over there and kind of how that all is operating at the moment on the calendar?
Yeah, so I think, the good news with the Pavilion, it's on track, for us to, host a first basketball game, a men's basketball game in the Pavilion the first week of January 24. And so not too long from now. What is that, 9 months, I think? But that we'll host, again, that first week. And, we're working with certainly the Big 12 for both men's and women's basketball and what that first week looks like. So that I think at least right now we're on track for that. The development center portion of the Pavilion. So what am I talking about? The practice gym, the locker rooms, the team lounges, the academic spaces, the offices, the weight room, the athletic medicine area, all of those areas. That won't open up until, the spring, summer of 24, which is, probably perfect timing because basketball, couldn't move into those spaces, during the season. And then, football, right now, I think we're scheduled to be able to use the indoor, be back in the indoor for fall camp. So right around, the end of July 31st. And then we expect, the Allison Indoor and the Fudge Football Development Center to be completed, probably late spring, summer of 24. So everything right now is on track and scheduled to be completed as we at least originally thought it would be completed by.
How difficult is it to know that the Final Four, both of them, are in your backyard, in Houston for the men and Dallas for the women, and you're not there as far as either of your programs?
Yeah, it's difficult because, we've talked about it, maybe even as recent as last week that, we've got really, really high standards for both programs. And I think that's a positive. I never look at that as a negative when you think about standards or you use the word expectations from from external constituents, from our fan base, the Baylor family. I think that's all positive, and I think we've built both programs. Whereas if they both don't go to a Final Four, then it's a disappointment, and so I think in many ways that's a positive. That's the standard. It's what we're all striving for and reaching for, and yet if you don't make it, you've got to balance perspective and really be grateful that we've had successful season, each of the programs that they went to postseason. But it's also, an opportunity to look deep within and say, all right, what's missing? How do we get better? How does each one of the programs get better and move forward so that, next year, hey, we can talk about the programs being in the Final Four. So, but yeah, it's certainly difficult, and you certainly think about what could have been.
Do you have a new appreciation for how hard, like even having done it and seen both programs do it, how hard it is when it doesn't happen? Because I can't. I try to describe to my fiance is a huge Kansas fan. She gets so disappointed that they lost. I'm like, you should know it's hard. It was 2008 till 22 between national championships. It's hard, Mac, and I don't think fans really get how hard it really is.
Yeah, it's hard because there's just some things you don't control, right? If you were able to control your destination, in all ways, then maybe it's a little bit less hard. But there's so many things that you don't control. You don't control injury, right? You could have an injury, in the tournament, itself that impacts you. You could have, an individual or two sick and not feeling well, and so not able to play to the best of their ability. There's, some matchups that you have an advantage. There's some matchups where, man, that's just, when you look at 1 through 5, yeah, we were a better team. We're ranked higher, more wins, right? But that's just a really tough matchup for us in terms of the way they play and their personnel. So there's so many different things where you're playing, that particular game. So there are just a bunch of different, factors that certainly play a part in your trajectory and getting to the Final Four. So it is hard, and so you better certainly appreciate when you get there. But then we're all competitors and we all want to be elite, and our standard is how do we get back? And so that's the fight, that's the chase that we're in right now.
Are you surprised? Obviously, Jerome Tang took Kansas State right to the edge, and it was a tough loss. Kim at LSU is in the Final Four. Are you surprised by that quickly?
No, I'm not. Quite frankly, I think that you've got a combination of a handful of things. Like Kim's not in the Hall of Fame because she's a bad coach, right? She's won 3 national championships. She's a great coach, and I think that combination with LSU and resources, support, and so you bring those two things together. Certainly, very active in the name, image, and likeness space, and again, they've got not just the infrastructure, but also donor base to be able to do some of those things. And so, that combination of the two, it really doesn't surprise me. And then, I think Jerome's journey, because, we've all been around Jerome and we know Jerome, and doesn't doesn't surprise me at all. You know, he had, you know, if you thought about the best 5 players in the Big 12 this year, he had 2 of those 5 on his roster, and good for him that he was able to be able to, you know, have those 2 and then put together the other pieces, and so that doesn't surprise, you know, me at all, and his ability to coach. Yeah, didn't surprise me, and certainly happy for him.
Grant McCaslin and North Texas tonight are playing in the NIT semifinal. I know that I'm not asking you to get ahead of the curve, but have you had coaches, or ADs, around the country ask you about him? North Texas wants to keep him. They hope they have at least 2 more games with him, but there is smoke out there about some other places. Has anyone ever asked you much about Grant McCaslin?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to tell you which
I didn't ask you to do that.
Which institution, but yeah, you know, I think in the process of a coaching search, right? Everybody's doing their due diligence, or trying to do their due diligence as best they can, and so, you know, calling people that might, you know, have a, you know, an idea or 2, or had, you know, direct you know, contact with or have worked with, you know, candidates, and, you know, I've not worked with Grant. He wasn't here when I got here, but certainly know of him and have been around him, and I think because I'm at Baylor, and even though our pathways didn't cross, I've had people call and ask my thoughts about him, and by the way, you know, it goes without saying, he's a terrific coach and a terrific person, and you know, certainly obviously part of the Scott Drew tree.
By the way, I had somebody on the chat room ask this question: how much, you have football, you have men's basketball, and that's all your revenue right there. That doesn't mean something else doesn't come in the picture, but how much time do you try to divide among all of the sports that are underneath your umbrella when it comes to sports that are non-revenue sports compared to men's basketball and football?
Yeah, that's a tug of war. That's a struggle for me, at least. And you know, I'm sure there's other athletic directors out there that do it better than me. But I think where I'm at, you know, and some of the stuff that I'm involved with at the conference level, and, you know, the NCAA deregulation items, and it occupies a lot of time, and then just the daily, you know, running a Power 5 athletic department. And so, you know, I try my best. I can't be at every men's tennis match. I can't be at every softball game. I can't be at every baseball game. I can't be at every A&T meet, but I try to go to as many as I can, you know, track and field, at least, you know, make a presence. It's important for me that our student athletes know that they're important to me personally, and that goes for our coaching staff, our head coaches, and assistant coaches. It's hard. It's a daily, like it is. It's just a daily tug of war, and so how do you do all of that? And you know, thankful that we've got great staff and sport program administrators that are, you know, in the trenches with their head coaches and student athletes for all of our 19 sport programs.
Mack, we were talking earlier about one of the headlines today. The U.S. gambling industry is adopting a marketing code that will ban sports books from partnering with colleges to promote sports wagering. Without getting into all of the details of that, I was just curious because there's already so much that's on your plate, and I know each state is different, just like with NIL or anything else, but where is sports betting and college sports and all of that on your radar, and just in general on the industry's radar? What kind of a road do you think we're headed down here? What are some of the perils? What are some of the benefits?
Yeah, and so as we know, right, it's become, legal, and literally cannot remember the exact, but it's 33 states right now. Is it 33?
Yep.
Okay, where it's legal, and I think there's another 7 or 8 that it's in the middle of the legislative process, and so it's part of college sports. I think in the next 2 years, the amount of money when we think about football and men's basketball, that figure is about $1 billion, and that's expected to double when we think about the future. So it's very much a part of our lives, and I think where it's becoming even more intimate is the whole conversation and discussion about real-time data and this data collection that's provided to the sports books. When you think about the betting lines and in-game betting, etc. And so you've got these on all of our campuses. Whether we know it or not, we've got these unofficial data collectors that are providing this information to all of these sport books. And so are we at a point in time where instead of unofficial data collectors, do we do something with official data collectors? If they're getting that data and they're giving it to sports books, do we do something more formal with a company that does that and can provide some structure and some integrity? And is there revenue in that? And so those are the real conversations that we're having right now when it comes to just gambling on college athletics.
Mack, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Thanks for again being a part of the show.
Gentlemen, appreciate you. Thank you.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics on 365 Sports, with many things